In order to make the linear measurements, we have four methods. One is approximate method, second is direct method, third is optical method, fourth method is electromagnetic method. So approximate method is chosen when the land is plane, right, and results are across 1% error. It is very speed, but it is very inaccurate. When we have a direct method where we use on a fair terrain on a plain land, the instrument which we normally use are chains, steel bands, and tapes. And then we have optical method where we use angular measurements, where undulating terrain we use a tachymeter and theodolite. If you need more higher accuracy, then we'll go for electromagnetic method, where you can directly see the distances. And okay, and this is very costly but yet effective. In the figure you can clearly see, if you want to do approximate method, right? I don't have a chain and tape along with me, and I wanted to calculate the length of it. These are the four methods which you can directly calculate. So the first is by pacing. Pacing is nothing but by walking. You don't need to carry any tape along with you. You have to start walking, and each step is taken as 2 feet 6 inches or 8 inches. So if you just count the number of steps you have taken, and if you multiply with the value, then you will get the value of length here. This is approximate. So if I walk 10 steps, that means I have done 8 meters. Problem with the pacing is, if the distance between 2 points is more, then you may have a problem in remembering the number of steps you have taken. That is why you also have an instrument called passometer, also pedometer, the instrument which I have shown in red color, right? You can see here. So this instrument basically, it is a stopwatch kind of a thing. Click the button there and you start walking, and when you stop it, automatically the number of steps it displays to you. So it basically counts the number of steps which you have taken in a certain duration of time. So it's very, it's a rough work, but it's speed enough to get the inaccurate measurements, right? Then we have a speedometer. All speedometer. This is how the speedometer looks to you. It is fitted to the automobiles, right? It is the wheel is fitted, the wheel length is known to you, and automatically you can know how much distance you have traveled. This is the another way of approximate method of calculating the length between two wheels. Then we have a perambulator. Now this is famous. Now you can see here, we have a wheel here, then we have a handle there. So what do we do is, we'll hold that handle and we start rotating this wheel, and automatically number of rotations it shows you, and also the distance you traveled is also displayed. This is the one approximate method. Then we'll go for the direct method. So in approximate method there are four types. One is spacing, second is by passometer or pedometer, or next speedometer, next parameter. So if you want to do direct linear measurements, so one of the instrument which we use is the chain. So what is the chain is all about? I'm into since 2 days I'm talking about the chain. So chain is a kind of an instrument where we can do linear measurements. Like tape you have seen, chain is a one of them. So how it looks is, here you can see the it's 3 mm. It's a kind of a round material, right? It's a wire. What do we do is 3 mm wire. We'll take it, and what do we do? We'll make loop at both ends. Now you have a loop at this end, you have a loop at this end. If you have noticed it, so these loops are made at both ends, and these are again connected to the another three rings, right? So 3 mm wire is taken, right, and these are looped at both ends, and these are connected to another thing with three annular rings. So that is how these that gives the flexibility. So the link, what we call, is the distance between the two adjacent center rings, right? The link is the number of links will say it. So the number of links means one link is the distance between the adjacent center annular rings. So you have the center here, you can see here one link here, and you also have the center annular ring here. The distance between both is called as a one link. So normally a chain has 100 to 150 links, right? So as per ISI standards, now you also have Thalys or like I've shown here, right? These are Thalys. These are these will be available at regular interval, and you also have this brass ring which I've said here, right? You have a brass ring which is kept which is also inside the chain. So these will give you an idea how much distance is between the 2 points. So as per ISO standards, the thales are provided for every 5 meters and the brass ring should be provided for every 1 meter. So you can directly count, no, this is 1 meter, this is 2 meters. If you find the next brass ring, it is 2 meters. If you find the next one, it is 3 meters. So there are so many types of chains I have listed out here, right? The first is the metric chain. The metric chain we have available is 30 meters and 20 meters. 20 meters metric chain is having 100 links. 30-meter metric chain is having 150 links. Now, what is the length of one link? Right? So if you take the first type of chain, 20 meters, you have 100 links. So one link is how much? 1 by fifth of meter. So 20 divided by 100 is 1 by 5 of meter. 1 by 5 of meters is 0.2 meters. So one link in metric chain is zero point 0.2 meters. We have just discussed about how much is the one link in the figure, right? So zero point 0.2 meters is one link in metric the chain of 20 meters. Now let us calculate what is the one link for 30 meters. So 30 meters is having 150 links. So here again the one link is zero point 0.2 meters. We have steel band. We'll discuss about the steel band in the next PPT. The steel bands are available for 20 meters and 30 meters. And we have next engineer chain. Engineer chain is of 100 feet length, and you will have 100 links for it. So each link is 1 feet. You can imagine how difficult to handle it. And then you have Gunter chain. Gunter chain is available for 100 links, and it is of 66 feet. So each link is 0.66 feet, right, or 0.67 feet. Then you have revenue chain. Revenue chain is of 33 feet of length and it is of 16 feet. So these are the figures showing the how the chain looks. The left side top corner is the metric chain, and this is the engineer chain, right? You can see how the engineer chain is, and the bottom is the gunter chain, and the figure exactly back of me is the revenue chain, which is of how much, and the revenue chain is of 33 feet, a gunter chain is 66 feet, and we have steel band, no, 30 to 20 meters it is available. Next we have we'll talk about steel band. This is how the steel band looks like. Okay, so this is made up of with a it looks like a ribbon of steel, and the width of this steel is 16 mm, and the lengths are available for 20 meters and 30 meters. This is very accurate instrument in order to measure the between 2 points, and moreover it is also enabled with handles in some steel instruments. Its designations are also available for centimeters, decimeters, and meters also. So we have a minimum least count of centimeters. Whereas if you take the metric chains, the metric chain, if I take 20 meters or 30 meters, the least count is only zero point 0.2 meters. So either the values, if you have taken chain and if you started measuring on field, the values will be in the multiples of zero point 0.2. Now, if any student writes it is 24.1, it is, you cannot measure zero point 0.1 through chain. The least count itself is zero point 0.2. Either you will take zero point 0.2 or either you will take zero point 0.4, right? So this is about the steel band. Right? Then we have these both instruments are the direct linear measurement instruments. When we do conduct the comparison between them, so you have might have noticed that chains are very easy to read, and you can complete the measurement of lengths very, right? And if you have any problem on site, it can easily be rectified and repaired also, right? So you never know how the site conditions are. You know, may have a problem in breaking the tape, so it can withstand the wear and tear also. So, and disadvantage of chain is it's very heavy to carry onto the site, and it you always have some kind of an errors when you're using any linear instrument. What you're seeing now. So chain always have some kind of a connections which you need to connect on the later part of the fleet. So the majority of the corrections you will come across when you're measuring is when your chain or tape is in sagging position. Sagging is like bending, right? And if you take the steel bands are very accurate actually. So it is very easy to open, it is very easy to operate. You can complete the work, much easier than the chain. You know, chain involves a lot of efforts in folding and unfolding. And when compared to chain, it is having less sagging because it does not have that much weight. And the disadvantage of using steel band is if you are not handling this steel band properly, then you may have a problem in breaking it into two pieces, and you cannot again connect it. So that is the main problem, and your entire day goes off with that carelessness. And there is no chance of repairing it, because if the steel band breaks at 15 meters, and if your tape is 30 meters, so you have lost 15 meters. For example, if you have lost the same thing at 1 meter, it's gone. So you have to be very careful when you're using steel bands. And when you're using steel bands, even though it is marked centimeter, decimeter, meters, it is very hard to read also in order to look at it. So you have always have a surveyor who is well-learned person who is technically sound, but you have the followers around you who is going to tell you the actual length of it. You might have a problem, in them understanding the actual value of it. So these are the when you compare these chains and steel bands. So I recommend its chains are much more better, even though they are heavy. They are easy to carry, and you can complete your linear measurements within a limited time. We have four types of chain. One is the first one I would like to talk is the cloth or linen type. This is majority you of all I've seen. This is very elastic, like it's very smooth. You hold it in your hand. So it is made up of woven lining, and it is varnished. Will resist the moisture to it. And the ribbon of this is 15 mm, and the ranges of this tape is available from 10 meters to 15. So you have a huge problem to it. So it cannot take wear and tear, it breaks easily. That's a problem with the cloth or lining tape. And the graduation, also with duration of time, the durability is also not there. So you cannot use this lining tape for too much. So the people have came across to this, and they have introduced a tape called metallic, right? Metallic tape is not that, the lining tape is completely replaced with the metal. Rather, the lining metal inside is reinforced with brass or copper wires, right? You cannot tear it, whereas lining you can tear it. You cannot tear it because inside there is a brass or copper wires inside. So now it gives much more resistance when compared to lining or a woven cloth tape. So the ranges of this tape went a bit more than the cloth. So the 15, 20, 30 meters is available. So it is majorly used when you ask any hardware shop for the tape. So you should ensure that your tape is reinforced with the brass or the copper wires to take the wear and tear. Okay. So third tape which I would like to talk is a totally steel band or a steel tape. Steel band is different. Band is nothing but a bigger one. So steel tape is you can roll it. So this is the width of this tape ranges from 6 mm to 16 mm. So you have wide ranges of it, but the problem is when you are using it, you have a problem in cutting your skin. That's a big problem. So the lengths are ranging from 10 meters, 15 meters to 50 meters, and it is very commonly used. And but this have a problem in getting corroded, so it does not have that much durability. Then we have invar tape nut. Because of the corrosion, the steel tape cannot be used or much last long. So they have introduced this tape where we can control the corrosion, and this corrosion can be controlled by using alloys to that material. The common alloys which are used in the steel are nickel and chromium. So in Invatec, 36 percentage of nickel is used, and rest will be the steel. And the thickness of this tape will be 6 mm, right? And you can use this for very accurate measurements, and you'll get very high precision also. And moreover, it also got low thermal coefficient. So thermal coefficient, you need not much worry about when you are considering the corrections for the length you have measured. So the lengths of the Invar tape are available in the market from 30 meters, 15 meters, and 100 meters. So it is recommended to buy these. And if the length is which you want to measure is very less, then you can go for steel tape or a metallic tape, which we have discussed. Okay. Next concept is the ranging, which I would like to talk with you. So, what is meant by ranging? Let us consider 2 points. Right? Let me say I have 2 points, and I wanted to measure the distance between 2 points. Like in the figure, it is very clearly shown to you that there is two orange lines, right? And there is one guy who is holding a ranging rod. As the ranging rod is not visible, I've drawn a line, right? So what we need to do is, the objective is to calculate the distance between these two orange lines which are far apart. So we'll use any of the direct measurements, either steel band we'll use, either you can use the bar tape, it doesn't matter. So the objective is to find out the distance between these two orange lines, which we call them as a survey station points. Fine. Now the nearest one is A, the guy who is standing and raised his hand, let me say that point as A, and the far end, the orange, let me say that as a B. So the tape or the chain which you have considered may be fitting to that 2 points or may not be fitting, right? So considering this point, you need to establish an intermediate point so that the exact measurements can be done, right? So fine enough. So what do we do is, we will set up an intermediate station point. So the process of setting up these intermediate station points is itself is called as a, what do we call? We call it as a ranging. So that is what I've said. In the process of establishing intermediate points on a straight line is called ranging. If you want to have a survey, in the yesterday I have shown you the diagram where the main service stations are there, main survey lines are running. So when you are doing this, you need to set up uh, minimum number of intermediate station points so that it can be measurable using any data instruments which you have got. This can be done either by direct ranging or indirect ranging, right? So what you can see, the gentlemen who are doing this are, it is a direct ranging one. The gentleman who is inserted, so he's instructing the follow man, right, to move towards his left hand side, right? And he is looking through his naked eye, right? He stood, okay, exactly at about within the range of 1 meter, and is looking to the ranging rod, two orange lines which I have drawn, and telling and judging whether the follower man is in the straight line or not. And he will not shout, he will give the signs like move towards left side, he will raise his left hand, move towards right side, he will raise his right hand. If he wants to fix the point, then he will raise both the hands, showing this card. Okay, these are the signs in which the survey makes. The direction of your survey lines is from station A, right, to station B, which I have shown here, right? So if the direction is from station A to station B, what do we do is, the surveyor looks with his naked eye from A and judges whether the intermediate station points, station 1 and station 2, are in the range A to B, so that the distance between them can be easily measurable. This is called as direct ranging. This can only be achieved when there is a visibility between the two points, two extreme points. Let me say A and B are visible, then only you can do direct ranging. What if the range or the points are not visible, then comes a bit of art. Like I've shown you this diagram. This diagram, it clearly says that you have a hill there, then you have a few flags, and the point of logic is the extreme sides, extreme flags cannot able to you cannot see it, right? If I stand here, I cannot see that point, and if I stand here, these points cannot be visible. So these points is called are obstructed with the hill, right? So intervisibility is not there here. I have drawn the profile. A and B are fixed points and these are obstructed with a hill. So what we do is we'll ask two followmen to hold their ranging rods and go up to the hill, right? So let me say those two gentlemen have fixed their points like R1 and S1 in such a way that R1 stands behind the point of R1 and judges S1 to be in line with B. R1 stands behind the ranging rod and judges S1 in the line of B. The first line which I have drawn is R1, S1 and B. Next, you will get A R2 S1 as now S1 judges R1 to come into the line A, right? Now S1 judges R1 to shift from his position in order that he will be in line with A, right? Now R2 judges S2 to move from his position in order to be in line with B. Now in the similar way, again S2 judges R2 to move towards the line with A. So this is a process. Finally, they will be in such a position. If the followman at R, if he looks, he can able to see the B point, and he's on the line S, and S followman, the point where another person is standing. If he watches A, the R point also visible. So this is indirect ranging, as because A and points are not visible. What do? Is we'll make the ranging from other side. That is why it is called as a indirect range, or it is also called as a reciprocal. So whatever measurements you are doing it on field, you always have some kind of a errors expecting, right? Basically, we have three kinds of errors. One is compensating errors, second is cumulative errors, third is mistakes, right? I repeat, first one is compensative errors, second is cumulative errors, third is mistakes. Compensative errors are due to incorrect holding, like non-uniformity of parts, inaccurate measurements of right angle. So these are the common errors, and this can be this can be a huge problem in when you are taking measurements. There are second kind of errors which we call them as cumulative errors. Cumulative errors are the errors which you can correct them, right? These can be due to chain or tape shortening. You can have slope correction. You can have sag correction. There is a faulty alignment. So these are the errors which are positive, right? There are some corrections cumulative which are negative, right? Uh, there may be times where the joints are open, right? Your pull is not to the standard. When you are stretching it, when you're holding it, there may be chance of you're pulling it, right, rather than the standard. Then you are measuring the excess length than the actual length. So your tape may be having wear and tear into the ground. This causes a lot of elongation when you put a huge. These are the negative errors. So you have calculated more than the normal. So the correction is always a negative. That is how the negative errors are. So the mistakes are happens due to the carelessness of the surveyor on the so-called followman. So what are the mistakes if I talk about? There are which we use the instrument called arrows. If you want to, this is the length end of the chain. You will keep a arrow there. You will fix the arrow there, right? So there may be a chance of misplacing the arrow, right? And if your arrow is displaced, then you will take again approximately this may be the point. That is the mistake you have committed. right? So ensure that your arrow is firmly fixed to the ground, right? In order to calculate the number of full chain lengths. Second is the lengths may be omitted or added. For example, if there are 5 chains or 6 chains, sometimes there may be chance that you have forgot one of them, or if you have when you're counting it, you have forgot it or you have added excess thing, right? So the counting problem, right? Sometimes 6 can be read as nine, and the follower has said that it is 50.2, but the survey has written 52, right? When you're turning the pages, maybe there may be a problem in actually writing 245 as 254. These kind of a common mistakes will commit, so it should be completely avoided. So that is why, in order to rectify these mistakes, always is this justified to have two people noting down the survey readings, right? Even if one commits the mistakes, the other ones can be corrected. So we have the corrections part. One is the tape corrections, one is the chain corrections. So what is this tape corrections? These are the corrections where you will come across when you using tape, right? So this correction need to be done. Right? The first one is the temperature correction. These are again unavoidable in all situation you come across. The mistakes and the compensative errors can be avoidable, but these cannot. So one is the temperature correction, second is pull correction, third is slope correction, fourth is sag correction, and fifth is normal tension. So I repeat: temperature correction, pull correction, slope correction, sag correction, normal tension. You will get 15 marks question from this. Right? You have a problems regarding to this, and the chain corrections are the corrections when you have found out the length as incorrect, and if you want to calculate the actual length. So one of the chain correction is that. So incorrect length, incorrect area, and hypotenuse allowance is when you're making right angles, then you have this. So what is temperature? Any material with a rise or decrease in the temperature tends to change in the length, right? This is the common phenomena we come across in all the materials, right? So it always happens to our instruments also. When there is a change in the temperature, the when there is an increase in the temperature, your instrument tries to increase the length, increase in its original length, and when it decreases, so-called decrease. So we'll use the laws of physics. The change in length is given by L alpha T, right? Where L is the length, alpha is the thermal coefficient, where T is the change in temperature. I've used the same expression here. The temperature correction is given by C suffix T, and which is given by L times alpha into change in temperature. So Tm minus T naught. What is Tm is the temperature which the measurement is taken, and T naught is the standard temperature at which the tape was manufactured. For example, 25 is the 25 degrees Celsius is the standard temperature, and using that tape in 35 degrees Celsius, then there is a temperature difference between it. So if you know L and the length you have calculated, the temperature correction you can calculate. If there is a temperature excess, then you will always need to add the temperature correction value. If the temperature is less, then whatever you are getting the value from here, it should be deducted from the original value. Full correction. So in strength of materials, you know that when you pull any body, if the body is in elastic material, and if you apply any force, it changes its length, right? So the same concept is used here. The PL by AE, right? The change in length is given by PL by AE, whereas the P now is the change in the force where it is standardized, and the force actually the tape was considered. So the full correction is denoted by CP, and the PM is the measurement pull applied during the measurement, and P naught is the pull when it is standardized, when chain or tape it is standardized. L is the length of the line, A stands for the cross sectional area of the tape or chain, and E stands for the Young's modulus of elasticity. So this equation we'll use for pull correction. Pull, the value is also sometimes positive and negative, right? And the Young's modulus of steel, if you don't have, you can take it as 2.1 into, you can see here, 2.1 into 10 power 6 kg per centimeter square, or 2.1 into 10 power 5 Newton per mm square. This you will know, get the value from strength of materials. Slope correction is a correction. Say for example, I actually wanted to calculate in this diagram. You can closely see that actually wanted to calculate the distance between A point and C point, right? But as because this the ground was in a slope condition, right? You have a downward terrain, so you have calculated AB, because AB is actually greater than AC because due to the inclination theta. So you have calculated the excess value which I denoted with CH, which is nothing but CT. And if you know the height BC, or if you know the inclination theta, and if you have calculated AB, the correction against the slope is given by these three equations, right? L minus L square minus H square, which is under root, and also L into 1 minus cos theta. CH is given by H square by 2L. So CH is the slope correction, and this correction is always negative because you have calculated you have measured the excess, right? AB is always excess than AC. This correction is always negative. This is sag correction. Let us take this as a chain. I've drawn you a diagram, and 1, 2, 3 represents the number of sags. So actually straight ground, right? But you have so many sags and it which due to the ground maybe, but actually the measurement you have taken is very less due to the sag effect. Sag effect wala, the actual measurement is always be less. So if you know the number of sags, if you can calculate the number of sags, then the sag correction is given with this CS equals to, what you need to know is you need to count the number of sags, and you need to know the pull at which it is applied. It depends, sag depends upon the pull at which it is applied, and you also need to know the weight of the material. If you know these three, you can calculate LW square by 24 n square into Pm square, where